this next one, this was not the sexiest thing to come out of the interview, but I have a feeling this one had Trump's lawyers just ripping the hair out of their head, because Megyn asked him about, this is related to the federal case that Jack Smith is bringing. Megyn asked him about, did he potentially wave around a classified document to some people that did not have clearance on that? And listen to this.
I did absolutely nothing wrong.
Okay, but let's get to my question. Why would you be holding up a newspaper saying this is still secret?
I'd have to look at it.
I could declassify it if I were president.
I would have to look at it.
But that's what you told Brett Baer. You told Brett Baer that that was a newspaper.
I could have
or a
declassified.
magazine.
No, I also told Brett Baer, as I remember, I don't know, it was a long time interview.
Well, you tell me, what were you waving around in that
I also
meeting?
told Brett Baer that it wasn't a classified document.
What were you waving around in that meeting? Because it certainly sounds like it was an attack.
I'm not going to talk to you about that, because that's already been, I think, very substantiated, and there's no problem with it.
It hasn't been substantiated. Jack Smith says
Megyn,
it was
let
the
me just
attack
tell you.
plan. And you told Brett Baer.
Let me tell you. Here we go again. I'm covered by the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do what I want to do. I'm allowed to have documents. The Presidential Records Act is civil, not criminal.
That's true.
In any way, it's
That's
civil.
true.
And I'm covered by it 100%.
Can I ask you what you
And this
mean by
shouldn't
that?
even be a case. Now,
No, and I'm not trying to come at you criminally.
Of
I'm
course,
trying to say.
Of course you are. But listen,
no, I started off by saying
Megyn, let me just
it's not
tell you,
about the criminal.
This should be a case for Biden, because he is not covered by the Presidential Records Act.
All right, first off, I just want to say, as I've said a million times on this show, I think that all of these cases going after him are purely politicized, and we only do it to one side and all of that stuff. But in essence, he's on audio saying, I'm not supposed to show you this. Then he kind of claimed it was a newspaper, but apparently it was these Iran attack plans, and whether he's allowed to declassify them or not, or show them to people or not, it just seems to me in the midst of all of this, you kind of, Josh, as a lawyer, you kind of don't go on an interview and just not be prepared to answer that honestly?
Dave,
or talk about it at all, I suppose?
Right. I remember earlier this summer when that first Jack Smith indictment pertaining to the Mar-a-Lago classified documents, when that came out, I was reading through the fact pattern like we all were. And when we got to this particular anecdote that Megyn's asking him about here, which happened at his Bedminster, New Jersey golf club, and he's literally allegedly kind of waving around these secretive Pentagon kind of contingency invade Iran, bomb Iran plans. I mean, my very first thought was like, is this Peter Griffin in Family Guy? I mean.
Well, he says, doesn't he say almost verbatim? He says, I'm not supposed to show these to you. That might be the exact quote.
Right. And to Megyn's point, and again, to Karol's point, none of this is unfair. These are extraordinarily legitimate questions for her to ask. Even if you unclassified it, even if the Presidential Records Act, the civil statute, not the criminal statute applies, which is a legally debatable proposition, I think he might be right, but it doesn't really matter, because even if all of that is legally correct, why? Like, why still do it? Like, why do you have these documents in the first place? I mean, none of this ultimately makes sense there. And also, you know, from a criminal defense perspective here, I mean, how his lawyers have not gotten him to shut up and stop talking about this in front of the cameras is absolutely mind-blowing. And it also shows why many kind of top-tier lawyers, frankly, criminal defense lawyers, want absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump as their client, because he is probably one of the most horrible clients to manage ever. I mean, no one's going to get near him.
Karol, let's try to give the devil his due here. I mean, he hasn't ended up in jail yet. He usually beats the raps. He beats impeachments. Like, does he maybe just know something about all this, how the game is played, that we don't know?
Well, it's kind of early to say he beats, these raps. I think a lot of it is ridiculous. I think we all agree on that. And none of these really should be indictments. But the fact that they potentially have him on audio saying, like, you shouldn't see this, but here it is a problem. And because we could all kind of imagine Trump actually doing that, I think in his head, he has a you're for me or against me kind of way of thinking. And we see this among his supporters also. You have to be all in or all out. You can't kind of be nuanced on Donald Trump. And that's why I think he ends up getting so mad at Megyn Kelly, because in his head, he was going into a friendlier interview because she does genuinely like him. You could tell that she does.
Yeah.
She's very warm about him. She said that, months and months and months ago, that he is unbeatable in the primary. So
she said it to me. The viral clip is her talking to me.
Right. So, I think that's what's so interesting here and that's why he gets so angry and why he says, yes, you are coming at me criminally, which, I'm not really sure what that means, but I think that he sees, the liberal media as anti-Trump, but that Megyn should have been for him. But you need to be able to answer basic questions, and I don't think anything should excuse that.